what I love about what you just shared about that home and that 503c is that why is one that does not have a finish line.
That'll get you coming
right.
back every day.
That'll keep you motivated. Pretty much. I mean, it won't matter how a lot of us get into the business, Rob, because we want more time and we want to make a lot of money. But at some point, you probably make enough money where you're like, hey, like this, I'm good, right? And that doesn't drive you anymore. But your desire to serve other people and to have a why that big will drive you well beyond, the next 10 or 15 years, if that's how long you want to continue doing this, man. All right, friends, welcome to another episode of the Context to Contrast podcast. I am Bryan Lovell, again here with my co-host, Mr. John Jones, and we have another episode in our Top Producers podcast, and we want to introduce to you Mr. Rob Young, who's a producing branch manager in Cincinnati, Ohio. Rob, welcome to the show, man.
Hey guys, thanks for the invite. Probably a little colder here than it is where you guys are.
It's definitely a little colder in Cincinnati. I think the high today here in Tampa is somewhere around 80.
You're close. We're getting close. But however, we did have a chill over the weekend. We were down around 40, high 30s, low 40s.
Yeah, it was like 40s.
Sunday,
Yeah, 40s or 50s. So
that was our dose of Ohio weather.
Rob, did you have a white Christmas?
A little bit. It snowed on Christmas Eve, just enough to act like snow, but it didn't stick.
That's perfect. That's what it's supposed to do up north.
Yeah, that's pretty great. All right, Rob. Well, we want to spend a little bit of time talking to you today about how you've built your business. I know you haven't always been a producer at this level, and what we're hoping some folks will take away from the time that we spend together is what are some of the tips, tricks, and strategies that you've used to build not just your personal business, but also your branch over the years. So, John, I'll let you kick us off, man.
Yeah, so we'll start in 2020 and just talk about what your team looks like at the branch today, and then we'll circle back to day one from Rob. But if you can tell us what 2020 looks like on your branch makeup.
So we have 6, maybe 7 producing loan officers currently, including myself and my business partner David, who does a lot of production more than just sales. I have 2 processors. And then I have 2 transaction coordinators. One does the front end. The other one's more like doc prep, does all the disclosures and add stuff to the Z drive, our external drive, and doing the documents to get it over to processing. So that's really where at 12, 13, give or take, depending on the day. But that's our makeup.
So, Rob, I'm assuming your branch hasn't always been that size. You just shared, you got quite a bit of leverage there, which is allowing your loan officers to focus on doing the things that drive their business while somebody else takes care of the day-to-day on the loan. How did you have to adapt or build your branch in 2020 with the incredible year that our industry has had, different than some of the previous years?
Well, I think leverage is the main key, and a lot of people talk about that in our industry and in real estate. I had probably too much processing, not enough originating, if you will, but I realized that most of my originators were getting burnt out on collecting documents. So Dave and I had to be smarter as to say, okay, well, it's going to cost us more money, but can they originate more loans by adding more people? And I think that's probably the scariest thing, because we all know if we don't produce enough revenue, Justin calls us and says, unfortunately, we got to relook at your pro forma, or Tom, whoever. But, you have to figure out, is that the pain point? Is it because they can't get to enough loans because they have them but they can't originate them, versus is it just because they don't want to do it? And that's something that I've learned over the years. Luckily I am with Keller Williams in the Cincinnati market. I go to a lot of their training. We're in their office trying to go to another one. So, we're we're getting some of that training that they talk about, leverage and do your one thing in the book and all that stuff that Gary and Papazan talk about. So,
Okay, yep.
you know, we see it all. It's just that, can you implement it into your mortgage business? Because they're not much different if you really peel it back and look at it.
Yeah. So, Rob, you mentioned David, who's your business partner. So how do you guys like split the responsibilities of leading the branch?
So we were kind of self-producing loan officers. He actually hired me in the business back in 2000. Yes, that means I've been doing it 21 years. However, this year we kind of looked at it as, can I be more on the sales side and he be more on the production side to help out? You know, in the beginning during the pandemic, I mean, there was just a couple of us here. So, you know, we're wearing a processing hat. We're trying to call customers. You know, we're doing everything because people are scattered all over the place. But we had the realization of, he's better at taking on the processing side and doing the production. And I was better at, okay, when this borrower calls, tell them this, say this. So it was more of the sales. So that's normally our personality. Like, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a high D and David's more of an SC. So it just kind of fits in to where it's kind of like a match made in heaven, that we're both yin and yang off each other. So it just made more natural sense this year by having more production, that he would be on the production side and I would stay on the sales side. And that's what we're going to continue for 2021.
That's great. So, hey, man, congratulations to the both of you for kind of adapting in the middle of, a pandemic. And obviously our industry's having the best year probably ever. So you've had to change a lot of your systems and models to be able to capture as much business as you can during this time, but also provide the right amount of leverage to your loan originators. My question is, and I know and I'm not taking anything away from anybody, but I know you've had a great year in terms of overall production. But how did you see the changes that you made within your branch structure or your branch operations? How did that help you and your originators that are producing go out and get more business?
So my business coach, who unfortunately is no longer with us, used to tell me, and this is going back probably to 2013, that no one cares what you do, Rob, unless they know how much you care. So I've kind of kept that mantra with respect to, just life in general and business in general. And so it kind of ties into why I'm in the business. But I know, John, one of the questions you asked me was, did you get in it for the money? And I could tell you that I didn't get in it for the money because I didn't know what kind of money you could make. And it took me like 15 years to figure out why I was in the business. And I can honestly tell you that in the last 6 years, I've made more money than I've made in the first 15.
Wow.
Because now I know why I'm in the business.
So you're going to share with us, right? I mean, like the suspense is building here, Rob.
So to answer your question, Brian, I wanted to find people that had the same path that I did. Maybe it wasn't the direction that I got there, but at least when they got back to the road, it was like, okay, here's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And it's centered around helping people get what they want, because they don't care what you do unless that happens. And I know Zig Ziglar said that, help enough people get what they want, you get what you want. Mm-hmm. Anything, there's different combinations. But, my business coach, that's what he used to tell me. Like, they don't care what you do, man. They just want to know how much you care. It's almost like I have a tattoo somewhere of him saying that. So with the help of him and another business coach that I have currently, her name's Nanette Polito, they found what everyone likes to talk about, which is your why. Simon Sinek, whoever you want to say, they all want to talk about it. But mine stems around not from like a bad situation. It was just that I didn't know what I didn't know. But what I didn't know is I didn't know that what a house means to people and how it grounds you with respect to your legacy. And so when I was growing up, my parents rented. And it wasn't that we didn't have what we needed, but I couldn't go out and buy a pair of Jordans every weekend or every month. But we still had food on the table. That's not what it was about. It was just that they were in a situation that fortunately my grandparents owned a house and they could live there and rent, and we never owned anything. So it wasn't until my business coach in about 2015 said, she kept saying, why does this house mean so much to you? What is this house? You keep talking about this house. What is it? Well, I figured out that it was the house that my parents didn't buy. And I remembered I remembered back when I was 10, my parents showed me this house and told me that we were going to purchase it. Whatever reason, they didn't do it. Financially, they were smart. I don't know. But whatever, it wasn't because we couldn't afford it. I just had no idea.
Rates were at 15%, maybe.
Right. Correct. So probably it was a lot of combination of things that I didn't understand. But when I realized that was the reason why I was in the mortgage business, a 10-year-old kid did not get a house that he wanted, that's where the words came from. It was so I can help people grow their legacy through home ownership. And I can say that anywhere, and people are intrigued to figure out what I'm talking about. And I've gotten better at, speeding up the story and slowing it down if I need to, and all the other stuff that coaches talk about how to do it effectively. But that's it. And then, to take that story forward, and Bryan knows this, you might also, John, but we're going to start a 503c, don't have the name yet, but eventually in the next couple of years, the lady that currently owns the house that my parents couldn't afford or buy, I'm going to buy it from her, and we're going to turn it into probably more than likely a shelter for people that can't defend themselves, whether that's domestic or abuse or whatever. So that'll probably be the only center in my area of town. And the good thing about it's where I grew up. It's my hometown. The house has been there for probably 100
That's
years.
Awesome. Yeah.
And, that's awesome.
So and I'm in the planning stages with the county and a couple other things, and getting the 503c set up.
Dude, Rob, that is awesome, man. Yeah. So two things that I love about that. One, I know, Rob, you have like a name for your branch, and it has something to do with building a legacy. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, I mean, our slogan is helping families grow their legacy through home ownership.
Okay. So that's a vision or a value system that you and David obviously lead to the rest of the people that are a part of your branch. But what I love about what you just shared about that home and that 503c is that why is one that does not have a finish line.
That'll get you coming
right.
back
That'll keep you motivated. Pretty much. It won't matter how a lot of us get into the business, Rob, because we want more time and we want to make a lot of money. But at some point, you probably make enough money where you're like, hey, like this, I'm good, right? And that doesn't drive you anymore. But your desire to serve other people and to have a why that big will drive you well beyond, the next 10 or 15 years, if that's how long you want to continue doing this, man. So kudos for you for taking the time to put that mission, vision, and values together for your business.
Yeah. It was definitely not easy to find, let me tell you.
Yeah. No, I mean, it never is. It never is. Yeah.
I guess that's why people think it's so important in the business world to figure out what it is that you're chasing, because it does make it easier. Those days you don't want to get up, it makes it easier because you are shooting for something that's more important than just a paycheck.
And by the way, I think that's a legacy too, Rob, that like even your family can get behind, right? Like a lot of us, our big why is our family. It's our spouse, our children, whatever that may be. You're venturing into something that even your family will be able to get behind, man. I'm super proud of you for that. Let's back up a little bit. And your business hasn't always been what it is right now. So what happened to take you from just being an average loan originator to doing what you're doing right now?
Well, I always tell my loan officers, you got to plant a lot of trees in the referral game. They're not going to, and I say fruit trees because they're the hardest to plant and continue to grow. So if you don't plant enough trees, you're not going to have fruit down the road. And, this is a referral game business. I mean, I won't sit here and say that I don't buy Zillow leads sometimes and, do the other stuff that you have to do. But for the most part, it's taking care of the client, which then turns into, getting the referral to the next one. And then also, really not, for lack of a better term, just blowing smoke up agents, telling them exactly what, I'm not here to sell you that I'm the best rates. I'm not here to tell you I'm the greatest loan officer. I'm here to tell you that strategically and strategy, if that's what you're looking for as a loan officer, I'm right there at the top. If you want to figure out how to get a square peg in a round hole, I'm your guy. If you don't, that's fine. You can go to the bank and you can just move forward and do all the stuff you want to do. But that's where I get most of my introductions to agents. It comes through turn down.
Yeah.
Then turn down switches over into a consistent pipeline of, transaction after transaction with most agents.
So is most of your business purchase business, Rob?
Yeah, I think this year, it's a little off because of refis, but we're still, I think, 74% purchase, and the difference is the refi game.
Wow, very strong purchase business there. So how did that grow? I mean, that doesn't happen overnight. It's not a boom.
Yeah, we were fortunate enough that a Keller Williams was going to open around us, and actually my friend is the broker, and actually there was a meeting with that group with Tom and Laura Lynn to actually get me in the door eventually, like saying that they'll support me to help with their agents and doing the transactions with VanDyk as a affiliated partner or a renter, whatever you want to call us. And that's kind of what started, the action plan of moving forward to, growing the team and then figuring out what we needed and, going from one processor to two and then going from no transaction coordinators to one and then four and, back to two, just kind of evolved over the years because, agents are the lifeblood of what I would say, in my opinion, of most loan officers that are in the purchase business. And you can screw it up real fast.
Being in-house, you definitely can make that mistake. Yeah, once you make one mistake, that tends to snowball and kind of everybody in the office knows about it pretty darn quick. If I can ask, I mean, being in-house in the Keller Williams office, like what is your top activity that you do to get in front of agents and maintain a relationship and grow the relationship?
Honestly, which you probably already know this, it's phone calls.
Okay.
It's not coffee. It's not lunch. It's work. It's grinding out on the phone. Hey, how are you? What are you doing? How are you doing? I just saw on Facebook that your wife, whatever, or I just saw you had a grandchild. You're just almost like there enough that they know you're there, because just like everybody else, when you buy a car, you didn't know your neighbor had it because of reticular activation. It's the same thing with agents. If I was the last phone call,
you get the deal.
They call and, hey, so-and-so just, I need a lender. Well, more than likely they're going to say, oh, I just talked to one. Here's his phone number. And I would, most people don't like the phone, but it hasn't scared me yet.
Yeah, for whatever reason, that phone weighs like 80 pounds. It's like so heavy to pick up.
We seem to have a common thread amongst top producers, though. What's the first go-to for everybody?
I would say this is our sixth episode of the Top Producers podcast.
And this is the big shiny object.
Yeah.
Is the phone.
Yeah, and the number one thing everybody has said is pick up the phone. I had a conversation, Rob, here recently with a a broker here in the Tampa Bay area who serves roughly 1,000 agents, 900, 1,000 agents in this area between a couple of offices. And the thing that I took away from that conversation was right now, especially in the COVID scenario that we're in, agents are craving relationships more than they ever had, right? I would tell you that people are craving relationships more than they ever had. It's not just agent specific. And, because of that, I think there's two things. One, if you haven't been keeping in touch with your referral partners, they're probably more likely to cheat on you than they ever have been.
Absolutely.
But if you're looking to build your business, there's never been a more ripe time to go after real estate agent business than there is right now, because they're getting overlooked more than they ever have.
And I think half the battle for us is to answer the phone.
It's crazy to me. If we were sitting here interviewing a real estate agent and we asked them, like, what are the top qualities that they're looking for in a loan officer, to Rob's point, one of the first ones they tell you is answer the phone.
So one of the tricks when I originated, and I had to purposely put this in my plan, at the beginning stages, was I made it a point that I answered every call that came in. And it was intentional whether or not I had that person programmed in or not. It was either going to be a realtor that I haven't worked with yet, that I need to work with, or it was a referral from a realtor that it's a client calling in. And if you don't answer that phone, they hang up and they go to the next person.
Yes.
For them, a minute is hours and if not days for a real estate agent in time.
Yeah, I did an interview with a top producing real estate agent here in the Tampa Bay area. Has a large team, probably 15, 20 people on the team, between salespeople and operations people. And one of the things I asked is, how would a loan officer go about earning your business? And his response was, listen, here's the deal. When my client, when customers call in to me, to my team, somebody always answers the phone, to the point where even out of business hours, they have an answering service. So he's like 100% of the time, you call my team, somebody will answer the phone. There's no leaving a voicemail. Yep. There's no, somebody not answering it. He's like, so to that end, when we call a loan officer, if you didn't answer the phone for the live handoff, buyer to LO, we call the next LO on our list. Yep. And I was just blown away by that.
We've all been guilty of that.
Yeah.
You wait 5 minutes, you reach out to the client or the customer, the referral, and they say, "Oh, no worries. I just talked to somebody else, and thanks for the call back."
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of minutes.
So Rob, to kind of follow up on that, do you have a system or a process in place to stay in front of those phone calls? Like, how do you know who to call, when to call? Like, what's the strategy?
Well, so every Monday, I do "How are you?" phone calls to probably 15. Some people would say 40. I think that's a little bit too much. I do 15 that I've done a transaction with in the last, quarter. And then, if I'm trying to add more to the phone calls, then I'll identify them through the processes that we have based on listing agents, or try to figure out if I really liked working with that listing agent, how can I help them, and then I will add that to the list and try to make a couple phone calls right away to try to get them to engage. And it goes like, "Hey, I'm just calling to see how you're doing. Do you need anything? Can I help you with anything? Do you have any turn downs that just you found out over the weekend?" Monday I think is a typical day for most agents because they worked all weekend if they're showing property. And then Monday is like, okay, what do I have to get done today? What offers do I have to get in? Where do I have to, what lender do I have to call? So I just think Monday they're already in that mode. I know some people say Friday's a good day. I've always had a bad luck on a Friday because they're either playing golf.
They're out.
They're, at the bar already having a drink. They're relaxing, because they're getting ready for the weekend. So it's almost like their weekend is Thursday and Friday, unless they have closings. and Saturday, Sunday through Wednesday is where they're
cranking
their work time.
Yeah.
So for the most part, that's what I would say this year every loan officer's been blessed with more business than they knew what to do with. But when it's time, when the phone's not ringing, that's where I always head back to that Monday phone call. And then of course, doing the updates a couple times a week. Hey, the appraisal's due in, and I also think that most loan officers, they tell too much on the voicemail, so then the agent doesn't have to call back.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know why the listing agent won't call me back. That's
Right.
what my loan officer tell me. I'm like, well, here, let me leave a voicemail. Hey, it's Rob. I'm the branch manager. I have to go over something with you on the appraisal on 123 Main Street. Give me a call back.
They call back in 2 minutes.
they call back and you say everything's good. Thanks for the call back.
I just wanted to let you
How
know
you doing?
I came in at value. We're good.
Yeah.
And then the loan officer's like, well, how'd you do that? I'm like, because I didn't tell them anything.
Yeah.
Like, the more you tell them, the more they're going to, they're not going to, it's like hearing from your doctor. Your test results are good. Well, I don't need to call them, but if they said, hey, you need to call us, we need to talk to you about something, you're going to call them right away because you don't know what they're going to say.
That's right.
Yeah. So
especially if it's a Saturday.
Yeah. So, Rob, it sounds like you have a system or a process in place to stay in front of agents, to continue to make those care calls or whatever that call might be about. Is there anything else in your business that you would consider a primary business driver?
Well, probably 10 years ago, I knew that there were so many turndowns in local banks because a lot of times people say no because they can, and they have a faucet that doesn't go out. They just turn it down or turn it up depending on how much business they want. So I've done I feel like a decent job of trying to find business bankers or loan officers inside of banks that they don't want to let the customer down. They want to keep their bank, their savings, their car loan, their CD, whatever else they have, but they hate making that phone call on that mortgage to say, unfortunately, we can't help you. And it's a wide range of why they couldn't do it or they didn't want to do it. And, I think our system is we have a high success rate with converting those turndowns to closable deals, and that goes back to my why, which is helping families grow their legacy. And so I feel like everybody deserves a loan if they're able. And, if it's one circumstance or one small thing that they can't figure out or one mistake that the loan officer made or the processor made during the process, that shouldn't just kick them out automatically. And unfortunately, in most banking institutions, they have so many coming in, those get pushed off in the conveyor belt. Like, sorry, it's too hard. See you later.
Yeah, the hard ones get pushed off. Yeah.
They have specific overlays. They're looking for a certain minimum FICO. They don't do, some of the credit unions don't do govies. And you're right to that point. Inside loan officers in those banks, they don't want to tell the customer no. None of us do in the industry. Whenever I originated, if I couldn't do a loan, but I knew somebody like maybe Bryan could do the loan, that was a product you had, I'd rather have that person be able to get the loan than to just send them out in the street and say no. So that's a great source, and I love that idea, strategy for partnering up with some local banks and credit unions, and maybe even trading some deals. Oftentimes, maybe there's a HELOC that we don't want to do or can't do for whatever reason, and they have some niche products that that customer might qualify under their program.
Yeah, 100%.
The interesting thing about most banks is people go to their bank before they call an agent. Unlike us, they'll have an agent, they'll go in, they'll go in the bank, hey, I want to get a loan. Okay, let's start. And then, if they get turned down, well, then they don't, then they get a call to me and they're like, hey, so it's like I call it a golden ticket. Like Willy Wonka, hey, I got this referral. They don't have an agent. What area of town do you want to be in? Do those questions, try to, connect them with the right agent.
Right.
And then that way, you're giving back to the agent.
Going full circle.
Just keeps going. And they say, well, where'd you get it from? I said, your local bank. They turned them down. And then I tell agents, hey, if you're from a small town or you're from a suburb in Cincinnati and you have real strong roots there, go to all the local banks there and tell them that you're a realtor. That's the number one thing I would do, because those loan officers are taking orders so fast. If they say, hey, I need an agent, and your card's sitting on their desk, you're getting a call. I'm telling you.
Yep.
And that has nothing to do with me. They're going to do the loan, it'll be fine. But they just can't go out and be as flexible as, we can be, the three of us in our day, because they're tied to that desk because there's so much coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Rob, we don't have much more time left together. I want to kind of end with 2 questions here. One, what advice would you have for a loan officer who's like, closing maybe 2-3 deals a month, that's wanting to kick it up to how do I get to 5 or 6? What would you say is that secret sauce or that piece of advice?
Well, regardless how big your database is, you still have to call it. Even if it's 100 loans, you'd be surprised what you can get out of 100 people in a database. And then 100 turns into 1,000, and then it just keeps getting bigger. So, I hear this a lot in my industry, in real estate. Hey, I don't have a database. I don't really have that many people to call. You'd be surprised what turns up if you actually put an action step and a plan into working your database.
100%. Yeah.
Even mine, I don't think it's huge, but if I really cognitively and put forth 120% effort into calling my database, something will come out of it. Someone will sell, someone will buy, someone will refi, and I didn't deserve the loan back, but I just did a good job the first time. And they will either call back or they will, I don't know if I told you this. I think I did tell you this, Brian, but we decided to give a small gift to all our clients this year, and we got 7 refis out of it.
Wow.
And we called them all when they were able to refi.
Yeah.
The 6 month, but they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So you call them up, say, hey, I have a gift for you. They walk in, they're like, hey, can you look at my numbers? Okay. So we do, and then they go in the pipeline, and just over a simple phone call over a cutting board.
Yeah.
Like it's a small cutting board, nothing big.
Didn't cost you a lot of money. Yeah.
Correct. And then, but we've been calling them, they just haven't done anything.
Yeah. You probably made enough off of those 7 to pay for the cutting boards twice over.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice job.
So I would say number 1 for a 2 to 3, no matter how big, going to 5, you have to call your database. You have to be in front of them. Because the more you call them, hey, do you have a question about your mortgage? You can make up a lot of things or say a lot of stuff to, just checking in on you. Hey, I use this line, I didn't want you to think I forgot about you.
Yeah.
Hey, I just noticed that you had a baby. Hey, it's your birthday. You'd be surprised how many loans I get because I call someone on their birthday.
Yeah,
no matter how big your database is.
And if you're a loan originator sitting here going, well, I don't have a database, my guess is you have a Facebook, you probably have a LinkedIn,
hundreds of
and you have a
friends.
phone, right? Your cell phone has a ton of numbers in it. Just start going through it. So, Rob, my last question to you before we let you go is there anything that you wished we would have asked you so that you could share with those listening that we haven't?
This business is not for the weak, but you can be very successful if you stick to it and don't try to chase the next shiny penny.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I see. Even agents, they're like, oh, we got this new thing. Okay, great. We don't use it. Oh, we've got this, mobility RE. Oh, what do we do with it? We're not going to use it.
Yeah.
But to me, it's just get back to what it was.
Back to
the
basics
phone in
that's
the
worked for the
beginning.
last 50 years in our industry.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Pick up the phone and call your database.
I was going to say, if you've ever watched the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, one of my favorite lines from that is, pick up the phone and start dialing.
Right.
Pick up the phone
Amen
and
to
start
that.
dialing. So, well, Rob, thank you so much for spending some time with John and I here. For those of you who are watching, please feel free to like, subscribe, and share on all your social media outlets. On behalf of John Jones, Rob Young, and myself, if there's anything that you need, please know
Thanks,
we're
Rob.
always here to serve.